You might have a committee, but that go on the thing there. Well, in a second.
He's overriding you. He's into the system.
Anybody?
Joe can't stop screen sharing.
He what?
He can't stop screen sharing.
I. We'll go ahead and call to order the December 5th Committee of the Whole meeting. Clerk, would you call the roll?
Babcock,
Yes.
Hetty. Yes. Black,
Here.
Malco,
Here.
Wright,
Here.
Gustafson, here. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from the November 21st, 2023 Committee of the Whole meeting?
So moved.
Motion by trustee Malakote, I think I heard trustee Plock first in there. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. We'll move into public comment. Public comment from anybody tonight, chief. Then we'll go right into new business. 5.1 is discussion or recommendation of adopting a resolution related to the Paid Leave for All Workers Act. Joe, can I execute on it?
This is an act that, this was one of those unfunded mandates that was passed earlier this year. It goes into effect January 1st. We have held off until right now, sort of the last minute, to approve anything on this because there was a lot of hope with IML and those lobbying groups that there would be an exemption put in place for municipalities. It has not. My understanding is that it may still go into effect, but it won't be until next year. So we're going to adopt an ordinance or resolution right now. What the Paid Leave for All Workers Act requires is that every employer in the state provide 1 hour paid leave for every 40 hours worked for any person employee. And so for be part-time, seasonal, anything. What municipalities are allowed to do as one of our exemptions we do have is that if we have anything in place, if we have a policy in place prior to January 1st of next year, where we provide any sort of paid leave to our employees, that will override the act. And our current paid leave policy will remain in effect, and any of the other parts of the act, we sort of exempt ourselves out of it. And so for the most part, we provide more paid leave than the minimum required. However, we do want to put this in place so that our policies do stay our policies. We sort of have that little control of ourselves. Decide, do we want to increase the paid leave? And a lot of it would be different for us, would be for some of the seasonal, part-time people, requiring that paid leave for them, allowing them to have some paid time off during the year. And it's something we can have next year, the discussion we can have. We can talk about how we want to implement that if we do, if we don't. I think there's probably pros and cons on both sides of that, but at least this will allow us to keep that control and allow us to make that decision. So this just essentially says we currently have paid leave policy for our employees, and we hereby officially by resolution adopt that paid leave policy. Just sort of as belt and suspender protection that we've actually had this. That's what we're doing. So we're not changing our paid leave with this. We're just adopting our current paid leave as our official paid leave.
Make a motion, send it to the board.
Second.
A motion and a second. Clerk, would you call the roll? Or for any further discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Hetty. Yes. Black,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Malco,
Yes.
Babcock.
Yes. That brings us to 5.3, presentation of the second draft of the Village of Roscoe 2024 annual budget.
5.22.
I'm so sorry, I already crossed it off.
Unless you want to keep the computer equipment.
No, we have a master. 5.2 is discussion and recommendation of declaring surplus certain IT equipment and authorizing its disposal. We have amassed over the years a very impressive collection of antiquated, useless, historic artifacts.
Make a motion to send it to the board.
Thank you. Motion and a second. Any further discussion? But would you go ahead and call the roll?
Malco,
Yes.
Black,
Yes.
Babcock,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Hetty. Yes.
Thank you. There's some gems in there. 5.3 now is presentation of the second draft of the Village of Roscoe 24 annual budget. So from the first to second draft, there's a couple things happened. One, I get to catch all the little errors that I made, things that I omitted. Done my best to do that. I'll catch a few more before the third draft, too, I promise you. But also it's a chance to work in input and comments on the first meeting, first draft presentation. I fully expect that this will remain, fully expect it. It's a fact, it will remain in committee on December 19th as well. And to be honest, we only have to have it approved by the end of first quarter, or first quarter of next year. But perhaps by next time will be, the next step after committee would be for you to approve it in a tentative form. Then it moves on to the board and we conduct a public hearing specific to the appropriation ordinance and then vote on it in that board meeting the same night. Somewhere in between there, we have mandatory notification requirements. We run a legal notice saying that the ordinance is available for observation and review at Village Hall, and we keep a copy of it up front on both the clerk and Jen's desk. So that's just sort of a sneak peek of the timeline. You have a hard copy and a PDF in your packet. The way we do these is from one draft to the next, it's just another column to the right. And I try any number that has changed is highlighted in green. I have a memo that tried to briefly address all the changes that we made. They are some small, some big. I don't want to dominate too much discussion, so let me just hit the very, very biggest of numbers, and then we come back and ask whatever questions you want, and really you discuss the conversation around our goals for projects and growth and development. For general revenues, a very small change. I just added, we had talked about cutting the price of the fitness plaza in half because we are getting a $35,000 donation, but really the proper way to do that is to reflect the donation and the expenditure separately. So I put $35,000 donation from Trajectory Energy Partners, or specifically North Pasture Solar. It will be earmarked and signed to this use. They tied the donation to, they thought that was an appropriate use of the money they're donating, so they earmarked it for this outdoor fitness plaza. So that shows up as a revenue change. Village Hall expenditures, the whole maintenance and repairs line item to me is just right now, sticking a finger in the wind. I don't know necessarily. The one hard number that I wanted to work into it that we didn't talk about last time is revising our whole front entry sequence to have automated openers on our doors. That is long overdue. I spoke to an architect about costs for that. I wanted to put in $25,000 as a placeholder. He thinks that's probably high, but safe. And we'll have to do with apparently the towers themselves, the push button actuators are sort of wireless connections to the operators. So there might not have to be as much damage to the sidewalks. I assume we would be removing some sidewalk panels to run power out to the neighborhood wall. We'll take a look at that. But we'd have to have someone throw a little sketch together. I don't know if it will require replacement of the doors and the storefront systems. If we need to confirm how the automatic openers work in conjunction with our access control system. We have precedent set over the police department. It works there, but they will be done in a sequence. So you push a button inbound, the south door, the outer door will open, and then a slight delay, the inner door opens. The same way on the way out. Because of the way they open out. We can't, on the outside, we can't have a button on the wall itself. Right? If you push the wall, the door will open right into you. So the door will have to be on a pedestal out in the entry area there. That's not unprecedented. You've seen that places, whether you paid attention or not, but there'll be a pedestal out in that concrete entrance to the building. You push it, doors open. On the way out, we can probably put it on the wall. So I actually moved that number from 75,000 to 50,000, with 25,000 of it being kind of assigned to the ADA accessible door upgrades. And other than that, it's a placeholder. I'm certainly open to suggestions if we want to try to track down specific quotes. Any projects?
Scott, can we just go around the
days here and see if people wish to do this, because this was not something that was discussed early on. I know it has been out there for a while. But
Absolutely, yes.
can we just find out if people see a need and want to do it?
So I guess, yes or no, whether, the automatic door opener or something we want to pursue and add to the budget. Trustee Babcock?
At this point, unless it's something necessity or requirement, I'd say no.
Okay. Trustee Plot?
Yes.
Trustee Malco?
Yes.
Trustee Petty?
Yes.
Trustee Wright?
I'm okay.
President Gustafson?
Is this something are we gonna get is there a violation? that-
Well, not violated.
We're currently ADA accessible. We keep saying that we're currently are ADA accessible. But if you ever sit here and if you ever sit here and watch people come in and out of that door, it's
We are occasionally
a problem.
compliant. It's compliant if the door will stay open by themselves. And they don't know. So like, so we are deemed to be ADA compliant if someone can open the door and pull it so that it stays open. And then say they're in a wheelchair, then enter, and then open the next door until it stays open and go through. They don't always work. They don't always stay open. So maybe if at the least, if we don't want to do automated openers, we need to make sure that the mechanisms work to hold the door open. However, it doesn't close the door, so then
What's the traffic as far as the, there you go, thank you. Is there, I'm not here during the day. I don't know what the traffic is. Is that a heavy traffic load coming through that
Yes.
door? That's-
There's a big traffic load that skews towards the end that possibly needs to have assistance with the door.
That was my imagine, there's a lot of older folks coming in that are, sorry, I'm old. Put me in there. So,
Or even if you're carrying things,
Yeah.
it's awkward.
Yeah.
to Get in and out.
Okay, cool.
and President Gustafson.
Yes. Yes, but I have a question, and we can talk about it later, just how would the fob stuff work? If you want to gain entry, you have these power doors, how is all of that?
Well, I'll tell you that to me is the sort of drawback of these is that once you put the automated openers on them, they become more difficult to open manually. There's a little bit of resistance, there's a little bit of pushback on those, they become a bit of a harder open.
okay.
Would you agree with that over at the PD right now? And anyone could try that as a, so the fobs still work to lock and unlock, so the fobs would only be applicable at times when the front doors were locked. My understanding, the fobs activate the crash bars, so if we're a period of time when the doors were locked, someone with the fob could unlock it, they could still either push it manually or they could slap the button and it would open.
Scott, why do we have to have both sides open? Couldn't you just have one side open with the automatic?
Yeah.
And the other one be the fob? I mean, are you saying that would open both doors at the same time or just one side?
That was one side.
If you put it on the opposite side of the fob. Because the fob's on the right, pull the right door to get in. Would that still have the resistance? Could it be on the left door?
I guess
Okay, so we only put the openers on the left, on one door.
Half of the doors.
I guess the consensus is people
I don't-
want to do it, they're just some mechanical questions and problems that maybe
We don't need to
bring
figure
answers to, or
Right.
we can research.
I don't think there's any rules that says that you have to have the inbound and outbound be two separate doors. It's a double door. I would assume that one side being activated would suffice.
How long has it been like this?
That's the only one out of it.
And now all of a sudden, we're gonna do it. I think we gotta figure out the details and then find out what the cost is and then do it. I'm of the opinion, I'm not here either, so I don't know how much useful, but if it's working or if it should stay open, it's not staying open, well, then let's fix that. And then figure it out in a way, but it's me. I don't wanna spend a lot of time on this item if we gotta go through 9 pages and like this, but.
What are people's
That's it.
opinions on a
Have we had
dollar
any
amount?
complaints? If people say, hey, where's your automatic door opener?
Yes, there have been in the past complaints, an issue. A handful that I know of, but I'm not here every day either.
I'm not opposed to fixing the long term, but like I said the last time, it's like. this go around.
I'm okay with leaving it for now. Can you just narrow down details
Yeah.
more?
There you go.
for the next
Details on
one?
the cost.
And that
No, not,
includes,
I mean, probably not. Or this budget's approved, I mean, that's part of the process of approving, well, maybe, I'll see.
Just an advice.
That's involves getting it designed, like, so
Yes.
we approve doing this, and then we engage the process of having someone just and bid it and install
So the suggestion might be to, as a placeholder, just include $30,000 for an ADA door, and if it goes that, it's less, it's
it. I have
less.
25 in now, gonna put up to 30, we can do that.
well, I
Well,
thought that also included flooring.
I don't, I need direction on flooring. If it's something we want to do, then
I'm not for flooring.
I think it's something that can be delayed. I mean, I'd like.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know, I've been in that one little bar now at one time, that floor hasn't changed from 1800.
Yeah, but we don't want to emulate that.
But you know what, I just don't see, we don't have enough people in here. Nobody, in my opinion, is gonna complain about the toilets. I just don't wanna spend the money. Unless there's things that we absolutely have to do because of code requirements, necessity, this, I'm for, let's push it forward.
We'll take the 50 to 25 just to cover the door.
there you go.
Yep.
Okay. I've added $25,000 in, for demolition and restoration at 10631 Main. I've added in $3,600 to potentially add in 4 large decorative concrete sidewalk planters. It's really an aesthetic decorative piece. The thought being to start to establish some of the design elements that might be brought forward and repeated through the whole streetscape design vision of Main Street.
We're here just along the
For
right.
here, I would do them along the stretch of our property frontage. So maybe either side of the door, maybe one down outside the police entrance, and maybe one incorporated into the landscape island parking lot near the bridge club.
Where do you have this built in? What-
They are in village hall expenditures, capital outlays, they're capital because collectively they would rise above the dollar
Oh,
threshold.
I see, yeah,
Being a capital
I
expense.
see. it.
And lastly, I will tell you, we absolutely need to replace the copier. We've probably needed to replace it for 3 years, but even after regular, frequent maintenance calls, there's still spotting on everything all the time, paper jams regularly to a maddening extent, so.
I like the copier. I think we can hold off on the sidewalk planners until we have a better feel for Main Streetscape.
I'd go with that.
I would agree.
That's 3, ditto, perfect. Justin, sounds reasonable?
Yeah.
Okay, so we will strike the planters, we'll add the copier, please, and thank you.
And what about leasing the copier?
Oh, it is leased, yeah, I mean, it's overall, it's $5,500, I think it's a cost, the purchase price, that would be significantly higher. But it's a $5,500 down, and then we still have a contract with them.
Okay.
And that represents less cost than the current year, right?
I believe it does, yes, yeah.
We did a trade-in.
Just a clarification, Scott. So right now, we're just going through the green, then we're gonna go back through.
That's exactly right. Okay. Yeah. I'll tell you what, this is planning department. I just put in, again, a placeholder. This is following on the heels of what President Gustafson and Attorney Kalinkus were explaining at the onset, that we would anticipate that some of the zoning responsibilities would be performed by a vendor. I don't know that we have a firm quote on that yet. I think it'll probably be an as needed hourly rate. Just to very quickly add on to that, what we're talking about is I assume, or right now, the starting place would be things that work their way to the ZBA and onto the board. We have current staff that is perfectly capable of reviewing permit applications. Decks, pools, patios, fences, accessory structures, things like that. Those are quick determinations as to ordinance compliance, and I've been working with Janelle to have her sort of work through these independently for the better part of the last year already. She's very capable. Joe kind of rattled them off. Things that require maybe a more detailed analysis are, and a presentation about the ZBA and the board are variance requests, special use permit applications, map amendments, which are zoning changes. Certainly if someone were to bring forward a PUD development proposal, that would require a higher level of analysis and application of our ordinance. And I suspect that that might fall into the scope of services that we outsource. Now, some months we have no ZBA meeting at all. Sometimes we have one agenda item, sometimes we have 6. So I'm not sure how we're pursuing it, but I assume it'll be a flexible hourly. I don't know.
Yep, that's the extension.
Yeah.
I don't think we talked about that, but yeah,
I don't think 35,000 is
I think that's
is close.
Yep, yep. But I think that's what the scope of it is, yep.
It just wasn't in there previously and I wanted to add.
You're talking about item 5240.
Yes.
Public Works. Yeah, it makes, there's a lot of the small errors that I had. Although we did, as directed by the board, we increased the tree removal item, both, that appears both in Public Works and Parks. Generally speaking, we have been appropriating $20,000 in Public Works, $10,000 in Parks, for a total of $30,000. I doubled it in each one. 40 and 20 for a total of 60. Don't vote on these yet. I'm just gonna pop through them. I had an error. I duplicated $7,200 in utilities when what Troy given me clearly said 10,000 street signs. And these are literally signs that are the names of streets. I think Troy maybe had $5,000 or $7,000 in there, but just casual observation, I see that a lot of them are really fading and some are getting hard to read, and we should probably just start instituting an annual replacement program for road signs in batches as needed every year. So I bumped it up. All right, guys, this next one is, I don't know what to do right now. I put $50,000 in as a placeholder for new Village of Roscoe signage. I think it's a 25 expense. I think that, like we talked last time, that might be more, and that's like the welcome to Roscoe sign. It's our big village identification signage. And Trustee Babcock directed us to a really great example of a large impressive one in another municipality. I don't think we have our arms around how big or how expensive it should be. But I think it will tie into some of the work we do for brand and identity development.
Exactly. Push it out until we figure that out.
Okay, we talked about it, so I wanted to briefly acknowledge it, but I think people agree, I think it's a 25 expenditure.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Oh, and I failed to have Troy's capital equipment listed last time, and Troy, you want to speak to it briefly? It is if I'm saying it right, it is a new loader bucket, which I think I understand. I remember you saying was for loading of salt.
It's for salt and for doing like bigger jaw rock on it. The main thing is salt with the new 4-way, talking with Caterpillar. One of the problems we could have with using, because it has the seals and everything for the hydraulic, because the 4-way, it has like the jaws, that the salt could get in there, especially if we go on a Saturday, we use the machine and we don't get to it till Monday washing, it'll sit on those seals. And possibly could start to get those seals to leak down the road. He suggested getting a full, just a regular open bucket that we can use for salt, and plus, if we have to start really banging into some big rock or whatever, you could tweak the 4-way. I know we've tweaked it before on our backhoe. Of course, it's a smaller bucket. And some stuff. So yeah, one of them was for just a standard regular bucket, and then the other part was in there was for, we have a angle plow. 10-foot angle plow to put on there, but this one is one of the big box blades for parking lots. I'm just trying to think ahead for our new parking lots, parking lot, we might get another parking lot. Whoever knows, I don't know what main street's gonna be. We're push in like how Rockton does, and then we snow blow into trucks to haul away. But those are just 2 items that for that loader.
Is the bucket a new one or a used one?
It's new. I asked them for a used, but they didn't have any used ones.
That sucks if we're just gonna bang up with rock, but.
It sounds like we're getting one to abuse it. It sounds like we're getting
Yeah,
us like
if we can
the,
find a nice used one
Being
for
that
what
it's
it's
a
on.
loader,
What's that?
I think that's what it's intended to do.
Yeah.
Get banged.
Take abuse, yeah, right, yeah.
Why they built
Yeah,
it,
if we
you
could
know.
find a used one, it just seems like it'd make more sense for what it's doing.
Well, you'd really hate to know how much money the machine I drive is then. If you're worried about $10,000 buckets.
Parks, I bumped the tree removal from 10 to 20 as mentioned, and then there are just some parts and equipment lines.
Go back, Scott, to
Yes.
the F-550
Mhm.
bucket truck.
Two different things,
I know.
Yeah.
But it's in green.
because the total dollar amount, we had,
It's a new F-550 and bucket truck from 2022, 200.
it always did, it's only in green because the number went down. Okay. We got a hard
My
quote.
question is,
Yeah,
when we did all these new police cars, or we're doing a lease, is that a lease or are we paying outright for that?
no, it's also a lease.
It is.
Yes. So that's only in green because we got a hard number of all of our obligations to the coming year. Because on the F-550 and the bucket truck, since those are still, we haven't even paid, that the bucket truck was approved, I think, late 22, and we still don't have it. So we haven't paid anything for it yet, so that keeps getting pushed along. But with these new vehicles, you pay half of the upfit equipment upfront with it, and the other half is rolled into the lease. So it's just a more accurate number of our expenditures for the year, and it just happened to be a little less than I thought. That's the only reason it's good. As directed, I have deferred the Riverside Park dock expansion project. Sort of eliminated what was that sort of vaguely described recreation project. We had that in for $100,000, maybe $250,000. And what I've done for now is take 150,000 of that and add it to the capital budget. When we get there, you'll see I bumped that up from 250,000 to $400,000. Here's one that I omitted the first time around, and it's a big one. But I had not put in the $600,000 that we committed as a match, our 50% match for the OSLAG grant we applied for the park, for the development of the park. So if we get that, pay that. So we better appropriate for it. If we don't get it, then you will still have appropriated some money for park development. Maybe you take a couple other items off. And just keep, there's plenty of things to build and do out there, so we can modify our OSLAG request in the following year. But we should, in the coming year, adopt a recreation facilities master plan of some sort and involve a public process, because again, I think that has hurt us some with our grant applications.
When do we hear about that grant?
I don't know. Usually, I think March, April. Public safety, another, this, I'm just gonna admit all my mistakes. Somehow I omitted 2 officers completely from the wage calculations the first time around. And I didn't pick it up when Sam and I were discussing it in more detail, when I was getting my head around our hiring goals for it. And not only did I do a great disservice to one of our existing officers, one of our newest hires, I would get him out of the calculations altogether, but I missed the target on new hires. I forgot that we were still replacing an officer, like a previously approved officer. We were at 15. We're hiring one to get us back to what had been full strength of 16. And then at a previous committee meeting, we indicated a willingness to go to 20. So this now reflects that. All the wage numbers in here, and those are broke out separately, separate attachments to show everything that goes into the total compensation. But that now reflects 20 full-time officers. I had not had money in for crossing guards previously, and to be honest with you, I'm not sure we ever actually appropriate for it. I think it's probably something we've overlooked every year forever, and Sam has caught that. Because everyone was quite incredulous to the number the first time around, we are increasing the ammunition budget up to $10,000. But again, with a lot of these things, it costs what it costs to buy as much as you need to buy, and if it's $3,000 worth, then yay. Okay. Public safety, that's just park safety, so good. Public safety capital outlays. We have deferred the PD building. We talked about doing that last time. And the truth is, even if it was our intention, we would have never built it next year. That's a serious design project. So what I discussed this in some detail with an architect. He thinks I was probably for a nice steel building, steel construction with some upgrades to it. I think I was in the right ballpark for a square foot price. So I feel okay about that previous estimate of 1.4 million. That of course has some contingency and design fees in it. I'll tell you that he suggested, after doing a little programming, that I maybe had the building too big. I had roughed it out at 6,000 square feet. He showed me some comparable examples of police and fire projects they've worked on recently. And it looked like maybe 4,800, 5,000 actually achieves all the goals outlined by Chief Holly. Again, that's part of the design process. And I did indicate that we are now perhaps preferring to do an addition to the building rather than a separate standalone building. I can't give you any accurate estimation as to how much that drives the cost right now. But what I want you to appropriate for a fairly standard metric for architectural fees is 7% construction. And that is what I put in based upon the original project budget of 1.4 million. I'm suggesting we appropriate 104,000 is 7% of that. And I think that as a group, you need to collectively articulate the goals. Now, that's part of the exercise, right? That's part of engaging the architect, just like we did with the police department next door. One of the first steps with the good architect is doing a needs analysis and looking at spatial studies. So that'll be part of the services, but we certainly should probably have somewhat clear direction as if we want it to be a building addition, a masonry building addition versus a separate standalone steel building. Those would be, anyway, we'll budgeting for design.
Just a second. Can we just go around the table here and ask the question as to how many individuals support the idea of even spending money on design in 2024 for something that's going to be several years out the door or down the road? I know you have to pay for design. I get that, but how many want to pay for it in 2024 or look at it in 2025 or?
That was the instruction given at the last meeting, but certainly everything is up for discussion every time. So I'll reverse the order. Are you in favor of pursuing the design of it this year, Trustee Wright?
I'm stuck kind of in between existing building or new building. My first initial reaction is to do existing building. And if that's the case, then I would push it.
And by existing, you mean build on to the
Correct.
existing building in a different
Correct.
that matches this.
Correct. And it looks awesome, looks just like this building. And hook it up to this one. And there's no outside stuff. It doesn't look like it's an obstacle just sitting out somewhere. I'm more in favor of adding on to the existing building. But that I would sure change costs considerably.
I suspect it would. I mean, the two primary differences are going to be obviously the wall cross section going to a masonry wall. It's different than steel building, and probably even I might even have like different insulation approaches. I don't know, but also fully footed versus kind of what would be typically more like a pole barn or a grade beam construction.
Did we talk like 35,000 to do a?
We did.
I don't know who said 35,000, but that's not a real number. Oh,
And then it went up to 50.
That's what I remembered. That's why I,
30 for design.
Mhm.
yeah, he said,
Well, you can't design them.
He might have meant the parking lot,
Perhaps.
but that's their like expertise usually. He might have
instead of
said,
the building.
Oh, goodness, yeah.
yeah,
When you said Brandon, I didn't even.
Yeah.
it's probably the parking lot.
Yeah. No, you're not gonna design $1 million building for everybody else.
No.
Yeah.
I'd push then.
What does that mean? I push
25.
25 for the design until you figure out, you're saying whether it's connected or separate?
I still like to connect it. But I'd need to know some cost around that. I obviously, if I like it connected, I don't think that's gonna happen.
I would suggest there might even be, I'm sorry, there might even be, perhaps you take an interim step of doing a feasibility study. You know, rather than do a full design of the building or something, but maybe someone does some massing diagrams and order of magnitude cost estimating, and that lets you decide the path forward. Chief?
If it helps, I mean, originally when this all came about, I mean, it was just kind of a idea for the future. I mean, we were talking about 5-year plans and stuff like that, and like, I mean, stuff that will eventually be needed. Or is it like desperate in the next couple of years, few years to get this done? No, I mean, we've been making what we have been getting done, the way we've been getting it done. And any foreseeable emergency in the next few years. I mean, in order to complete this project or anything else, I mean, I don't even know if it'll be in the time that, you know, I'm just trying to prepare for the future.
Yes, you will.
Of where we need to be.
Well,
And yeah, it would be very significant compared to what I originally just thought about, like a pole barn, because I don't know, but compared to attaching something that's going to be like, I think of like a gymnasium being built, I want like that, you know, the cost of something like that, like, so.
I'd like to suggest we just use as a placeholder some dollars to do, as Scott recommended, conduct a feasibility study as to a standalone building or an attached building,
That's what I'm.
where it would go, yada, 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 all of those types of things. So you can narrow down the choice and then plan accordingly once you figure out which of those two concepts you want, and it may take several years.
Who would do
To
the
design it and build that.
You need, any number of capable architects could do it, and I would budget not more than $15,000.
Oh,
Make it come in
okay.
less.
I think that gives us better direction. I mean,
Than
personally,
making guesses.
I would think Sam's advice is the most germane to the discussion. He's the one that's gonna use it. So to me, I definitely push it off. Except for the feasibility study, that makes sense. Let's figure out whether it's should be connected, which should not be connected. And then if it's on that street, you know, you could make a combination of something that looks nice, and guess how many people are gonna go back there and look at it? Not that many, so.
Okay,
We're
so-
gonna put it aside, just on that side. Something to look
Okay,
at.
all right, so therefore that green item that I'm looking at that is pegged at $120,600, just drop both of those and use as a placeholder, 20,000 for feasibility study. You're not going to need the parking lot if you don't have the
Right.
evidence garage going in. You don't need the design of the parking lot yet until you know what the building's gonna be attached or separate. That makes sense?
like,
Do we have re-roofing yet, the old evidence garage? Because I noticed that used to have a tarp on it. It seemed to be falling off.
I think
I don't want to see evidence getting ruined.
Can we
that's.
build a new
choice.
garage down there? I mean, Public Works funds use it essentially too for barricades or whatever.
Yeah, but I think for an immediate use, we need to look at that roof because I'm worried
it was
about,
flapping in the wind this weekend.
yeah, I'm really worried about evidence.
Can we look at the structure of it too?
Well, answer, I think they're looking at the,
Yeah, no, I did get one quote, but now it's getting too late in the years, cold for them to get the shingles to see. But yeah, I did have one quote, and there was another one that we're trying to work something out, so hopefully in the spring,
well, that was a minute.
it was like almost $6,000.
Do we need to get a pretty good tarp back up on there then?
Yeah, we'll get. Put the garage issue under,
Structure
okay? So,
Is the structure of the garage okay or? Okay.
So the line item of 104,000. The line item of 104,000 and the line item of 16,600 are just gonna be a consolidated into a $15,000 piece of work.
Yeah,
Well, can we leave the line item and just, so we don't forget, so like in the future, just put like 10 and 5 and. But yeah, feasibility study, just so the line item stay there, so next year we think about it, maybe the year after we think about. I don't like seeing line items disappear, especially when we're looking at long term.
Well, that could be feasibility for evidence garage. And you've got it identified, right?
We have the two line items, just put a little bit in each one and keep the line items, that's all I'm saying.
Some corrective action to the Exxon stuff, just to,
The numbers are, the account numbers are the same. The line item, the number.
significant thing is that we have $15,000 in.
Yeah.
The semantics. Axon bundled with some corrective stuff. It's interesting, to bump up to 20 officers, we take it from 39 to 41, 533. But also, if I'm saying this right, chief, the like domino effect is that by increasing our number of officers in the Axon bundle, we get a greater discount on the fleet cameras, so that goes down a little bit.
Yeah, they basically give you a discount, just for that kind of, almost kind of, so.
Are we still good on the number for the radios? Did the radios reflect 20? Forgot to ask you that previously, not to put you on the spot.
Portable radios, they may be only like 230, so there is like, that is a little over.
And that's sufficient if you even got to 20?
Yeah, that's everything, so at 16, I think it's 188.
So right now, we're looking at 16 or 20.
Everything on this is at 1. That is up to the.
I'm gonna jump all the way ahead to the capital fund, only because that ties back in to the general fund, because the more we put, capital fund is largely at this point funded by transfer from the general. Like every now and then, we have some grant funding that can be deposited directly for a capital expenditure. That allows us to bypass the process of transferring out of the general fund. But right now, that's how we fund the capital projects, by transferring it from the general fund. So they're interconnected. And I think I had a revision or a slight update to the 2024 residential streets budget. I think it is based on, they're wrapping up the design and have an updated current OPC. And when I say OPC, that's opinion of probable cost. So about up $675,000 to $688,463. Now, as we have in years past, we have at times contemplated additional residential street scope. And so I asked Troy and Brandon to look at what would be a logical add-on should we want to explore it. And because they're right now, the 2024 is promontory. It's redoing all of promontory, which is interesting. It's the first one since I've been here. It's the first one we've redone that has curb and gutter throughout most of it. So we don't have the shoulder issue. We don't have the concrete radius sections at the intersections. The concrete curb and gutter will stay in place. We'll just peel up the asphalt and repave. And the suggestion came back was both based on its condition and need, but also location wise, it's right there, is to potentially tackle Hidden Creek at the same time. And I have a cost estimate, updated cost estimate presented on that of $542,433. I have not put that into the budget yet, but I put it off to the side as a talking point. Class D patching remains at $50,000. I don't think we discussed this last time, but I do have, it was in the first draft and it remains $350,000, which would reflect, we believe, approximately what our down payment what we have to pay ComEd to advance the design of taking all the utilities underground on Main Street.
Scott, before we go to the trade-off of additional residential paving, what we don't spend on certain projects in the general fund in category A or basket A are things that can be spent in B, correct?
Yes,
Okay, so therefore,
yes.
I'd like to direct everyone to page 6 under capital outlays.
I'd like to correct everyone on the fact that there's patience.
To capital outlays for parks. And I would like to have you think about this. Now, once upon a time, we thought it was extremely necessary to put a park or parking lot in Porter Park because of Halloween. And now moving it to Riverside, the $600,000 Porter Park parking lot, it's something, in my opinion, that can be postponed. And that $600,000 then used for the additional road project in Hidden Creek and the other place mentioned. You're just moving $600,000 from an unneeded parking lot at this time to a residential road project expansion. Almost the same dollars. And one day, we will eventually get a parking lot there, but it's not critical next year, whereas residential road programs are popular. and
Perhaps we revisit its size as well.
Pardon me?
Perhaps we revisit its size as
That's what
well.
I thought.
So,
It started as a, about a 30-car parking lot 2 years ago.
And then it went to 135, according to Bradman. I called him about that. So right now, this is 135 stalls.
so I would,
What would it be?
250.
Yeah, I thought. But I guess my asking that would be that we revisit a new design because the fitness equipment was also attached to that parking lot,
Mhm.
so we would also have to not do that.
yeah, and that brings up a very, a good topic of how can we plug in, rhetorically here, how can we plug in $35,000 received from a solar energy project that isn't even built yet and will be out there 2 years, 3 years from now? Do they shift it from some other municipality and give it to us? I'm fine with just delaying that altogether until, let's see what the OSLED group gives us. And then plan around that. If it doesn't get us anything, then we bite off little parts of what we want. We always talked about the bike path. Everything's a trade-off here. Maybe it's a better idea to build an extension of the bike path than that fitness equipment and smaller parking lot, so on and so forth.
I suspect that if you expressed that to our friend Hal Sprague at Trajectory Energy Partners, he would follow your wishes as to how $35,000 was.
Was he going to give it to us this year?
I think it coincides with the construction of the project.
And is that under construction in 2024?
So I guess for me though, I would still revisit designing it because we still have disc golf and all that. I mean, the Porter Park parking lot's not gonna hold all of them either.
Once the trailhead come through from.
I believe then their holes, weren't they gonna start them on the other property and end them on the other property as well?
They were
So
moving.
it's like, I mean, I don't know, we just may need to revisit at least designing it, which is gonna bring that cost to I don't know,
It's a
$20,000 versus 600,000, you know. And you could still do the other roadways, which to me, the roadways, they're not a part of our 5-year plan, right? These ones,
Yes, they are.
The
the
additional
Hidden
ones.
Creek ones are,
So
Yes,
225,
what year are they?
2024.
No, the Hidden Creek roadways, do we know?
They were in the 2024 as an addition, if
Well-
we had the dollars for it. In the 2025 ones were Roscoe Center recommended and Hodges Run and.
So they were part of
Crystal
our
Hills.
extra package for our plan. I asked for that a while ago, and I didn't get a new copy of it. Okay, this is all the additional, if we wanted to do
Right,
something,
if-
with- yeah, I
right.
knew this existed,
If we had.
and
the
I wanted
dollars.
everybody else to see it too.
It's in the documents.
I don't know if you've seen that. or not. You should still be able to do the Hidden Creek subdivision and redesign that parking essentially for the 600,000 still. I would think.
Because you're saying the design's not gonna be that.
Right,
Right.
and you're gonna look at revisiting, you know, making it smaller, it doesn't need to be 150 cars anymore.
well, he said 225, Brandon told me 135.
Started as 250.
All right, 250.
I don't know, it's something, it's too big.
Okay, great. All
I know.
right, so back to the essential question.
Yeah.
There's an agreement, a consensus that $600,000 is not going to be spent on a Porter Park parking lot. but rather X number of dollars for designing something based on what we think are the needs. So pull a number out of the air as a placeholder for design for parking lot.
What's that number?
$20,000,
We have 2 weeks, I'll get a number.
Okay,
Yeah.
So that makes much more sense, because if you're gonna do promontory, you do that. Have subdivision, but we get cost benefit, plus delaying this stuff, not that I'm against the parks, but you know, I go back to what I said earlier, is today, once we get all this motion done for our economic development, our branding, making this a destination, we're gonna get a lot of excitement, we'll have the marketing, along with the police and the education. Those are the three things gonna draw, I think. We're gonna increase our revenue from other sources. Maybe from 501(c)s to pay for a lot of other things that we might do, maybe even more than what we could do on our own. So,
Yeah, I agree.
okay, and while we're in that category, as Justin brought up, the outdoor fitness stations, those might go somewhere else or whatever.
Oh, that's.
Okay,
I
so
think we leave it in there for now, because we could always put it
The
in
full
a different park or put it in a
full
different
70
location.
or just 35 that we will get from solar.
Well, the 70 gave us one of those whole build out things we had originally found, right?
Correct, and it's a large chunk of once we actually designed something, that resulted, if you look up that image, the parking lot there, and it's that 3/4 of a circle off of the sort of northwest corner of the parking lot. That would be the plaza with the fitness equipment in it, and then the pads would intersect into that. A good significant chunk, half or better of the cost was the concrete plaza pad itself, so. I think we had 35,000-ish of equipment and 35,000 of concrete, and
I guess could you revisit, of course, the scale we may actually need, maybe Leland's a better fit, I don't know, could just look at other locations too. Are we gonna put it at Park? Because we're not gonna have a parking lot over there, so.
bump it down to, I mean, that thing's now at $35,000 per year. I've only put it up to 70 based upon the way we designed it and bid it. Which I think is bigger than we maybe thought, but I also did that with the thought in mind that we were getting $35,000 to put towards it too. So, yeah, we can scale it down. So that's a pretty fancy fitness plaza. That's a nice.
Well, I know you were doing hard surface for ADA compliance, so as long as we could keep with that too.
Yep.
Everyone else okay with that? William?
Right, and then looking at the other parking lots, I did identified here Chicory Ridge parking lot, yay or nay?
I'd say a yay, just because we've been following that trend of paving all of our gravel parking lots. This is the last one.
So what we're talking about is from the end of the road here, it becomes the gravel driveway down in, and then it's a gravel drive and gravel or aggregate path that surrounds the pond as well. A couple of years ago, we did curb and gutter around a cluster of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, about 10 or 11 stalls. But we didn't pave it. We just put curb and gutter around to define where the parking area would be. This used to be chaotic. It used to be a big wide expanse of undefined gravel that when people pulled in there, it was kind of like a demolition derby. No one knew where to go, where to drive, cars would almost hit each other. We had a garbage truck catch on fire and dump their contents into the park up there. At the time, advanced disposal actually had to go excavate the gravel and remove and replace because the smell, we get the smell out of the gravel. So this would be continuing the curb and gutter around, extending the amount of parking some that's on the east side facing the pond, adding some additional parking. On the other side, I can't remember, this is roughly 30 stalls or 40 stalls, I think, but paving it from the access point to the public street back to where it converts down to a more narrow path at the picnic shelter.
How much is this park used, that area?
The parking lot,
And is it possible that we could push it off?
most things off. It's used by fishermen and it's used by families who sit like
Are we gonna try to spend some money in Riverside, which is where we're gonna move?
Yeah, I'm more in favor of, if we're talking parking lots, then the downtown parking lot,
That's already in the budget.
that's in. I like some portion of a parking lot at Porter Park and I like another portion of a parking lot at Riverside Park. We're gonna be talking about using that park for the trunk or treat or the beer fest event and all that other stuff. The roads out there are horrible. And those would be my favorite parking, new parking.
You know,
let's talk about that.
here's the question I would ask everybody. Negative on parks and the scenic ability of golf course and parks. But at the end of the day, they don't really generate a lot of revenue. And we don't have a problem with people wanting to move here right now. And it's gonna be even a bigger opportunity for us, because once we develop what we're allocating funds to develop economically around here. it's gonna be better. So to me, all of these things, not that I'm against them, but I just think if we postpone them, we're gonna be in a much better position to decide where we're gonna spend the money, why we're gonna spend it, and how much we're gonna spend. And last discussion, so one last thing, last suggestion was, if we're gonna use Riverside Park and move one thing so we can exploit that park, which is a much more exciting park to me, because it's not driving through a subdivision to get to, it's a huge park right on the river. We just seem like might be a better allocation right now, or a planning for that.
I have it up on the screen right now. Just to help me maybe better address this in the third draft of the budget, what do we think are types of improvements?
This road here is just absolutely treacherous.
Okay.
That entry road is awful.
We can follow my cursor.
Aside from the buildings that are dilapidated and should be torn down. If we're talking about that, I'd look at a new parking lot. That street's that's a long street to do.
The parking lot?
Yeah, I don't know if I don't know what a cost would be to do that entire Riverside. That might be too much for us to bite off right now.
I assume that's probably not regularly used by park patrons. That's probably more for
Right.
football games and.
It's in fair
events.
condition. This road here is just absolutely.
I'm not so sure I was talking about parking lots, but use the money where we need to use the money to clean up Riverside to get it in a spot where in the future we can use it. If we don't have people going there, I don't need parking lots to look pretty.
And my point is, if we're gonna push more events out there, then it needs to look better now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Use it to
It needs
clean
to
up.
be cleaned up.
Whatever we need to do to clean up. Maybe that's a piece.
So what does that, what does that look like? Does that mean removing? Because it's just a big wide open natural area right now. So is it additional tree planting? Is it continuing? We've done a lot of dead tree removal. There's still more to do, I assume, Troy? Yeah, so it's removing dead trees. Is it planting more trees in it? Is that what's considered attractive? Is it,
Scott, can you go to your feasibility study of using that to figure out what should be done?
of course, yeah. I just wonder if we,
To me, this is a better opportunity for going for a grant and actually involving the public in it instead of just us.
Yep.
We won't
get what we want to do.
You won't get any.
we won't get any grants for Riverside at all. FEMA, we got,
You won't get any.
it's floodway. In fact, we've been prohibited from putting recreation facilities back in.
Well, then we definitely need to get the public involved in what they want to put there because it's their money and we're essentially gonna wash it down the river. So,
So the park floods badly and so we had on two different occasions, at least, two that I'm aware of in my time of doing work up in this area, where there was fall fields just completely washed away.
But didn't Scott, didn't you say in the last meeting that something's been done in Rockford and that's not gonna happen in the future? They're saying it's not gonna happen.
No, I did not.
Okay.
That was Cabela. They've released, their ComEd is releasing more water now down in Rockford.
That will do little to prevent ice flows. The real damage we get is.
Well, okay, so let's just delay doing anything until we figure out what we wanna do then. I think Justin's right. Now, let's find out what the constituents really wanna do before we spend money on these places, just because we have to allocate it to our budget. Again, I go back to, let's focus on the economic development here, what we've been focused on, the Main Street downtown, use those funds now. And then once we get some momentum, then we'll have a better idea where we can allocate from other places, but we're gonna have a good marketing message. We got a police force, we got good education, we got an exciting downtown future development.
But we can still go back to what you originally said, and that's clean it up. If tree removal needs to be done to improve the riverbank appearance, because a lot of people do use that. And removing whatever deficient structures are down there, demolition or whatever it is, you know, we can do that. And do take a closer look at where you might need to route the road or access point. And if we are going to be using it for the movie festivals or movie showings and other things, do we need more electrical capability down there? Is that something that we could put in?
I'm not talking about a major rehaul of the park.
Just those things that allow
There's a
us
couple
to.
aesthetics that if we're gonna use it, knock down those buildings that look like, you know what? And
We'd use that demolition bucket we're buying, you know.
run it over.
Are the buildings up front? I know the this one back here.
I know one.
Shelter way in the back.
Yeah, that's one building. What else are we talking about?
I think
The rest
there's
is not
another
that
one.
bad. That shelter is not that bad.
Needs a new roof.
Just that first one.
Somebody was gonna.
Runaway
donate.
tractor.
We've had an offer to donate a new roof.
You what?
We've had an offer to donate a roof to that building.
Those are the buildings you're talking about?
The very first one is, should just
The
be,
long picnic shelter, right?
yeah, should be just level and started over. That thing is.
Well, I need to tell them not to put a new roof on it. If they're gonna do it.
That's like.
It
putting
it
lipstick
does have
on
a
pig.
sway in it.
It is, it's great, it's, unless the poles are fine and they put a new truss in and that's included in the roof, or.
Troy, have
Can
you
take a
done
look at it?
have you done a safety thing through our parks? Like, I believe we asked for that.
Yeah, I know the roofs need to be done. I never,
Or the structures.
the structures look fine to me. I mean, I could,
Can you and Brandon go down and take a look at them?
like a structural engineers, get those.
Well, just make sure they're not rotted and leaning and
Sagging,
sag.
sagging.
Yeah.
Okay, well, going back to the issue of paving, Chicory Ridge Park. Once upon a time, when that park was rolled out, the big goal of the committee that was formed and the agreement was that everything there was supposed to be low impact. So how does a paved parking lot fit with low impact? Is my first question. And if it does, okay, fine. But I keep hearing that we need to extend our bike paths, need to expand, and it would be better to do it with local dollars than try to apply and use state or federal money, because the requirements would be far greater.
On the Calhoun Road, that's absolutely the case.
So I would prefer that we do that, because back to who uses what more, our bike paths are used a great deal and they're highly visible. And so I would like to spend money on what is highly visible and has a greater impact and gets us to eventually connecting with the bike path that will eventually be coming from Rockford.
That's the only other thing I'll say about Chicory Ridge Park parking lot is that it is a mess when you try to park down there. For anybody coming in or out, whether they're in the neighborhood or not, there's not established handicap parking. There's a sign, but it's not established on the ground.
There's no stripes, it's gravel.
Right, there's no marking for it. So it may be an 11 car parking lot, but usually there's only 5 that fit in it. by the time the way people park, so.
And we get a lot
I
of
wouldn't
young,
say you need to expand it to 40 cars, but at least pave what's there, which would probably take that price tag down to about half.
and the entrance, because we get a lot of young
Yeah.
families that walk
People
down there,
pushing their,
pushing their strollers and
buggies,
stuff, and they
strollers.
gravel. We do get a lot of complaints, or we're used to,
yeah,
of that being an issue. Someone gonna get hurt twisting their ankle or something, so.
I push my newborn down
Well,
there.
Riverside is a great investment. I've seen thousands and thousands of dollars washed through that park. I would rather stick a little bit of money in putting out Chicory so that it was more usable. I mean, that's one of our largest subdivisions and one of our bigger parks.
I wonder if this aerial cut, that is Troy, did the aerial catch the time when they dumped the garbage?
Sure looks like it.
Yeah. Yeah, cause it's.
Interesting.
I would say to at least pave what's existing. At least take away the problems of the parking. You know, put the proper handicap stalls in. And it just leads to the future of it, you know, we can
Is that-
shoot
is that
for grant
less than-
opportunities.
Is that less than?
Yeah, he had a 40-car extension, that's only 11, so it would
Yeah.
probably be half
Yeah,
that.
that would seem reasonable to me.
Do we want to pave the drive going into it though as well?
Yes, I would pave the whole thing from the entrance all the way up to
So what did I put this at, 160 or something?
210, I think.
And
And the lighting is how much?
That was $10,000 a pole.
Is that
That's
expensive?
separate.
A lot for a pole.
No,
Light.
I wouldn't take it down below 145. I have to pave the whole drive.
Still in favor of other parking lot. And we sat back in the parks meeting in the back room and that part didn't come up as a top 3 or 5. I'd be more apt to some, use it.
I'd argue that, I guess, but it came up as one of the top ones for a grant opportunity.
I tell you, the geometry of this curb return drives me straight up the wall.
What?
The geometry of this curb return, that should be 90-degree intersection and look at it. It's 60 degrees.
I think it's clear for 2024, we need a capital improvement plan and a parks plan.
You're here.
We're doing a lot of
Yes, yes, yes.
discussion about very specifics, like a lot of information in this budget process, and I think that's not the best way to do it, I don't think.
It would
I think we need to work this conversation throughout the whole next March, maybe through next budget season, right? And we'll break this down, get an idea what we want to do, and then figure out what it's gonna cost, then prioritize all of it, and figure it out there. Because I think we're doing a lot of maybe more than is needed in a budget conversation.
Well,
Apologize for-
absolutely.
A lot very quickly.
When we had the comments.
Yeah.
Well, can we narrow it down? You take a real cost estimate, leave it in there for now, bring it back to the third draft, and everybody can see all the numbers lined up as we did everything tonight. Decide from there.
Yes.
It's not getting approved tonight.
But so remove the additional parking, get an accurate number,
Well, just paving what's there.
maybe what's there,
Yeah, and see, getting a realistic number for paving what's there.
you can decide. But I do think I heard, right, there's consensus to not do the $600,000 parking lot in Porter and to bite off the additional residential streets. Is that something to push into it? Oh, that's what I want to see the
redesign. And the redesign of, parking lot.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So if, and then in capital, we're back to that, if you go a couple lines down. I did have, again, up to the side, so we, right now, I just have, and look, we're not, in this process, we're not gonna get more specific in this, but I have $400,000 now just appropriated for Main Street parking lot development somewhere. There will be a number of opportunities. I will tell you again, my 2 cents worth is that I would rather, I just told Justin this before the meeting, I'd rather see 5 different 20-car parking lots spread around than one 100-car parking lot anywhere. I just think that that's a better distribution of parking. I think the scale becomes more intimate and pedestrian friendly, and it distributes people closer to businesses. So you get out and you're
Well, make it useful.
right. And I think that right now, if we wanted to, we could pick 3 spots right now or 4. And we're starting to accumulate some properties. We know some others that we could, if we made it our mission, we could go after, but. So I have $400,000 in right now. That was, and again, it's just to appropriate some money for it and find your project.
So in that conversation we had
Mhm.
for the Bridge Street house that we purchased for business, I guess,
Yeah.
as well as the house. I told Scott that we should possibly look at, and now maybe a feasibility study for that building. Do we want to refurbish it? Do we want to try to open up the walls in there and make it more of a business? Do we want to kind of do some streetscape to it and then maybe even put a sign out front saying that this is one of the first steps of the new downtown Roscoe? It's just a thought process. Even just getting general contractors to come in and give you estimates, we don't have to pay for it.
We have to acquire it and inspect it.
We don't have it yet.
Oh, sorry, well,
No, we haven't.
what do we get?
I'm meeting with her tomorrow. It's still largely full of our stuff, so we'll talk about. I thought, Joe and I talked about this, let's talk about with all of you. What would our wishes be as to how, do we want to say, we want to close now, we want to go? And I don't know the answer, I'll find out more talking to her tomorrow, but if she felt, at one point she had indicated that she would like to use the month of December to start getting everything out and maybe tie a bow on it at the end of the year. Could we just push out the closing? So she's done with that, or do we?
I
Rather
have
than-
a prospective tenant already. Someone walked in, one day last week and was looking to locate a particular retail establishment selling ice cream, candy, popcorn, gourmet tea, this kind of stuff, and, explored what was available here, and every space that they sought and really were committed to being on Main Street had eluded them by 1 day or 2 days or so. So, the guy is in a construction business and he is willing to renovate his space. So I just asked them to walk over there and take a look at it and
Sure.
see if that's something.
We would
that-
lease it to them?
Yes.
When would they need it, but?
They would like to have something nailed down by the first of the year, because they are exploring another location in the village that is not quite their dream location, but they are very enthusiastic about being open and being in business for the person.
Did they ask it? After they said?
Oh,
I called her yesterday to find out because she's going to tour it last week and we weren't able to connect. So I don't know the answer to that. So they are exploring options and that was just one that I suggested, go through it and see if it would meet your needs and what we have to do.
Maybe if we do something.
Yes, Justin, we need to know if that building is viable for being our incubator space and subdividing that type of thing.
Or we just tear it down,
Yeah.
put a parking lot. It
Right. But we-
actually is one of the few houses that have a character.
Right, and that's,
That's it in this
and
area.
that's what they wanted,
So-
like, they wanted something that had character.
Okay.
So
well,
back to
yeah.
your original question, to motivate her to get out as soon as possible would be.
So that's for plans, right?
I'd say
Um,
by the end of December. I mean, it's
Right.
already
Well-
December 5th.
Right, but I mean,
And
not,
last
not,
time we,
the
last
6
time we were
months or
talking
year
about
that
moving
we
into
had.
the year.
Yeah.
Other.
There's nothing to say. So we had talked about potentially this. So if you can see where I'm moving my cursor, that's the
Yeah.
house that we approved to purchase and she's accepted our offer. We just need to get to closing. This is the adjacent parcel that I think is an attractive target as well. And this one know that where the owner is now establishing her daughter in a business here, and we understand there's a business that will be operating on a pop-up sort of basis for jewelry parties, is that right? So we had, extending, using this driveway access point, extending this double loaded bay of parking up and over sort of an L shape around it. But there's certainly a drive width here, and it probably isn't 24 feet, it probably isn't a true two-way parking, but maybe it gets us by for a while. Maybe we explore having a driveway connection between the future coffee shop and the future ice cream shop that goes back, and we start, maybe we can get a 20-car parking lot in the back half of this, the north half of this parcel now, and it's designed in such a way that it could be expanded over to a bigger lot once we get it. So
That's part of that house we're buying, the backyard.
oh yeah,
Oh,
sir.
yeah, there you go.
I'm just saying, if you're gonna have, that's gonna be one, two, there's there's possibly three brand new businesses on that corner.
Yeah.
With nowhere to park.
Yeah, that'd be good, turn that into parking lot.
Well, we have money budgeted for that. I mean, we had said at our last
Yeah,
meeting.
if
that was
it's
important.
feasible, then yeah, it'd be nice to have 20 cars parked back there, right?
And the other real problem that developed, as Scott was talking about, is a common area for people to have a dumpster. As you have these businesses, that was an issue that came up with the coffee shop, we didn't have a place to put a dumpster
Bring it
where
over there.
where a truck would have access to it. So you have people who want to locate in these tight spaces, but it's not just parking, but it's
Right.
also servicing.
That makes sense. That's a great idea. I think that should be parking priority in a role.
I would agree.
I agree totally. That's,
Nice place to sit, some maybe circular,
Yeah.
something. I just don't want to piss off new businesses.
tables.
Yes.
I'm gonna go park 2 blocks down the street.
And it's good.
Get a velvet
visible.
robot coffee and
Yeah.
sandwich.
Yeah.
Or Casey's at noon.
Yep.
I would say if we're going to this is just a thought, but if we're gonna lease that business, we need to at least establish that they have like at least 3 priority parking spots that are dedicated to that business. So it's not just 20 random cars that aren't using the business,
Well, just
There
remember
are
landlords when we do that.
Yeah.
But anyway,
But certainly we will be potentially, be expanding to an incubator concept like Mike brought back from the
Yeah.
conference, right?
Yeah.
You're sort of a de facto landlord.
okay, these are great things to talk about. How do we get back to where we need to be?
We are where we need to be, I think. We are, we were talking dollars for the parking lot. That ties into what we just said. And lastly, in capital, I had we were put in a placeholder, well, not really a placeholder, it's, I think, a educated guess. And extension of the McDowell Road bike path from where it ends at Randoulet, extending down to the entrance to Port Park, Windflower. It's 0.8 mile length. Right now I'm at 328,427. But that's a qualified estimate because there's a lot of design variables there that I get armed around. The challenge is going to be an engineer challenge to solve. But a path is going to run along either side of the street. Right now, at a glance, it looks like it makes more sense to keep it on the south side, fewer utility pole, intersection issues, and probably less tree removal. That will be an issue we should all be aware of as we move into this. We will have to remove some existing large mature trees. Whichever side of the road that path goes on, probably have a bit of pushback from some neighbors that lose a big mature stand of trees, even though it's not in their yard, it's in the public right of way, people perceive it as their yard. But also, there's not storm sewer out there, there's ditches, and if the path is running in what is currently a ditch area, you have to somehow address that. Anyway,
Would it make sense to do that in 2 stages? Since the Perryville path isn't done until 25, then we'll do stage 1 this year, so it's half the price, stage 2.
Upper Ridge is kind of an halfway point, so you can go Rambley to Upper Ridge to Windflower, sort of 2 paths of that. I guess I would be inclined to design the whole thing and bid it as phase one, phase two, and approach construction that way.
What does everybody else think about that? All at once or two stages, just reduces the price for a year essentially.
2 stages.
I would agree.
I would agree.
The same side where that gentleman wants to build the new houses.
Further.
It's farther down.
Farther down?
He's already got the path running past this.
Further
Gotcha.
east.
Oh, yeah, there is part of it.
So this is that, this big trapezoid right here.
Yep.
The path runs from Maine to Ramblay, right here. So we're going, so Ramblay
Yeah.
to Upper Ridge and then Upper Ridge to, we almost have thirds, maybe Upper Ridge, maybe South Down. Really Ramblay to South Down, then South Down to Windflower. That's really the halfway point, not Upper Ridge. I will between now and then get an accurate design proposal. And then to the best of our ability, come up with a refined cost estimate for the whole thing and appropriate, what I may be hearing is appropriate the design and half of the construction for 25. 24, excuse me, 24. And then the other half in 25, which should align with Perryville Path connecting to McDonald.
Grant, is that something like grant that might be easy to obtain?
Not on this one. So the story on McDonald Road here is that we, if we're using any grant funding, it brings in design standards.
All right, yeah, that's right, yes, yeah, okay, gotcha.
This particular path needs to kind of be self-funded. Yeah.
Yeah, you'd have to redo the road
Yeah.
and everything.
If you allow, it would be property acquisition.
Yeah.
It would be a nightmare.
Yeah.
I just got one other question. I didn't see 50 north in the budget, like, for some reason. Is
Let's
there-
go around the table and see who wants to pay for it.
Well, it was in our first draft, I believe, and then all of a sudden it disappeared, so I'd like to know who asked, because it wasn't asked at our last meeting.
I asked Scott to leave it out so that everyone could vote on whether or not they wanted to pay for it.
Is that 50?
50 north, it's
50
a
north,
senior activity center that,
301C, 301C group.
This is next year's.
Yeah,
But it wasn't this year.
I didn't see it in any of the.
They got their check the first part of January. They got their money for 2023. The COVID year, they did not.
Was that the group that came in?
No,
yeah. he presented to
they
us.
are,
Normally, we give about $5,000.
no, we
So I
don't.
guess,
It's 3,000 last
we
year.
don't.
was it 3,000?
Their ask
What was
was,
it?
their ask this year was 2,500.
2,500, okay, 2,500, so
That was their ask.
what does everybody think about $2,500 to them?
I'm gonna say something, my first inclination, and I'll be 62, so I'm old. Yeah, so the only issue I have is donating village money, taxpayer money to. And I'm sure we're not gonna be knocking down doors, but that people can line up and ask for donations from us. I think that opens a door that we might not wanna travel down anymore. I just have a problem with spending taxpayer money on a 501(c) or C3.
So what about the 501(c)(3) you want to create?
That one,
Yeah,
that's purely for Roscoe, and it's not a village operation whatsoever.
so the village wouldn't donate to it.
No,
No,
Okay,
nothing, period. It would be a total public, you find a committee that runs it, just like Jacksonville, Illinois does. They have a committee that's totally outside of the village. We can partake if we want to sit in a meeting, but it has nothing to do with the village. Okay. Village doesn't donate, village doesn't run the meetings. You find somebody who has an economic mind and it's a totally opposite of us, has nothing to do with us, but that money is spent on hiring grant writers that money is given to us. Okay.
there's just been a lot of talk about it and nobody's
Yeah.
ever talked to me.
No,
about it. I
it's,
just don't know anything.
no, we do not partake. In deciding They do fundraisers, they do donations. Any way you can raise any kind of money that goes into that pool. And basically then they seek out the grant writer. That money that's raised pays for a grant writer. And if we get the grant, that comes down. Everything's put into that kitty pot is a village project. But it has nothing to do with our budget. Nothing to do with any of us that, you know, we don't run the meeting, it's, we would have to find a committee that operates that solely outside of us. Jacksonville, Illinois looked at me and said it was a no-brainer. We met with Jim Packard Senior. That's how the 2000 got started before. Obviously, they had on the back end of it, they had someone come in and dump some money into it by the name of Diane, but everyone I spoke with down there, there were two other communities, villages, cities that have this 501c3, and I'm like, you gotta do it. No matter how much is raised, and that's something I like, you know.
Well, it's good PR for the village. too.
Yes.
You just push businesses, you go to the banks.
Or you have
Hey,
stakeholders.
you wanna donate, right, you wanna donate $500. You wanna donate, and all that money, and that committee decides, okay, we've got $5,000. Let's hire a grant writer. Hopefully you get that grant, and then all that grant money comes back to the village. It's an outside project from us. And that culminates also what they spoke about is we're not gonna be able to do this whole thing with just us. What they thought was really nice about it was that you've got another committee outside of us that have the same interest in making things, you know, they got park benches downtown, stuff like, it's nothing giant.
Yeah.
But it was, you know, what they found suitable for what we want to do in the village of Roscoe. But it's another entity that's pushing the same direction that we are. And it all goes right back into, but yeah, there's nothing to do with us.
Well, I know in the past, just going back to 50 North, we've donated to organizations like this to get them kind of going. Like I believe, didn't we do Elevate 15?
No,
Is there not one of-
Never made it.
What was the other one that we helped establish? Since I've been here, I don't remember the name of it.
because there wasn't one.
There was something.
It opens the door up to any other community to walk in here and ask us for money.
Well, and it's fine if they wanna ask, and
Oh,
we can
great.
decide if we wanna give it to them. This is a small give back to the communities. $3,000 is no big deal. I'm in favor of it. It's a small give back to the community. It's not gonna cripple us, for God's sake.
No, not at all. I'm more of the issue of the money, that the money does. I'm more of the, do we open the door to donating to?
Trustee Babcock,
In my
$500 to 50 North.
No, not only but I want to make a comment because I support what 50 North is doing.
Totally.
But the problem is that, as Mike points out, you opened yourself up to giving village money to an entity. Okay, so what if other people don't agree with that entity? Now, all of a sudden, you know, because everybody could not have the same feeling as we have to support that entity. So I think that's the issue. It's not we don't support it. Well, where the village and I see come in is for somebody like that, they come to us and they want the village to approve something. That's where we help them out, but I don't think it's that.
But we dropped $400 on the table at this thing on the 18th. That's, I know all the citizens are in favor of that.
What table?
Region 1, the organization that will promote and advocate for infrastructure
Petition
projects.
signing, what it was.
No, it is
labeled
not.
as.
No,
That's
No,
what
it
was
is
not
not.
at all.
No, it is not. No, it is not.
I ate lunch with the Region 1 guy the other day,
What are we getting out of it?
out of my lunch.
No, out of the $400 table.
Again, we're meeting with Region 1 again.
But it's all constituents. It's not limited. to
Right,
us.
and
It's open to everyone.
state lawmakers
Well, not
who
$400,
can,
we're,
and
8 people are going, that's all it's going for
We
that.
gotta pay $400 to meet with state lawmakers.
Yes.
no, it's networking and it is promoting the village of Roscoe, and it is acquiring cooperation to get them to see that our need should be a state need and dollars coming forth. So it's a dialogue that goes on.
We're lobbying for money.
Right.
We're lobbying for attention. We're lobbying for them to recognize us and move out of Rockford and recognize somebody north of Rockford and get us something.
Anyway,
That
no.
was totally my bag. I ate lunch from the other day and I'm like, dude, you gotta,
I would be a yes, Scott. I think they do a great job.
Okay,
Daryl, no,
no,
Stacy,
I was already a yes.
Sue?
No. Now,
And my-
one thing I do want to point out, even with Elevate 815 and in our hometown holiday, they have a fundraiser at hometown holiday for scholarships. So we are giving more or less to already a 501c3.
and their scholarships don't go to any students at Harlem High School. They only go to
And I live-
Manteca, and we have residents here.
And I do live in the Harlem district.
And I made a personal donation and advertised that the tree was from all of us.
And I think that's what we do with 50 North, if we want, or that we contribute personally.
There's mine.
mine.
I thank you. There's a lot in here. There's enough to have a meaningful revision for a third draft.
Can we just go through that in mind?
We'll take a brief recess and don't wait for me. Is there any other old business?
Oh. Part of this, so as we look at the dollars, are having a conversation as to how much of a savings, and if you want to label it reserve, that we keep so that we can have and grow the amount of money to have the matching funds for infrastructure projects. Do we need a separate line item for that?
I would suggest you treat that separately from the policy. Is in place to address operating expenses should you find yourself in a shortfall. So I think separate from that, you start to have a line item to accumulate money for specific use of a match to a grant.
So I would like you to include that in our next draft, a line item, call it whatever you want, savings for matching grants. Matching grant.
I bring money.
What are we doing with the $250,000 for this youth project?
I put some of it towards parking lot.
Thank you.
Okay. But some of that
What are you
could be
talking-
shifted.
$250,000 for youth project, blah, blah, blah.
As I said in the memo, I eliminated that, I put 100, I increased the parking lot line by 150,000 and the rest is just going towards lessening our, if you notice, we're from draft 1 to draft 2, we're appropriating about $900,000 less.
Is there any interest in doing our employee bonus gift thing that we've done in the past? Any interest?
No,
No,
Yeah,
What did we do?
$250 Christmas bonus
$250
Yes.
for every person.
for all of them.
Yes.
Is that, I don't know.
it was done at the start of what, COVID,
yes.
because whatever reasons, but there's a cost of living built into salary.
So that's the second question. Are you doing reviews? Because in previous years, I believe Mark and Scott did reviews and then they had an added percentage over the 3%.
I have not seen any
Oh, I-
previous reviews.
So there was an added percentage that was given out. Are you doing anything like that?
Built
Or just
into
the
this,
three? I know
built
three
into this
built
is
in.
3, right?
That's
That's what's built in right now.
And does
They
that
don't get
cover?
a performance.
Well, I'll need to address that. You have in your documents, you can look and compare them. But you did approve different wage classifications and our pay scale for public works, and 3% does not align with what you approved. You need to know that. So there is you have in the wages folder, in the budget stuff there, you can see what the payroll expenses are at 3% and what they are at variable increases based upon recommendations from departments.
Scott, you said 3% doesn't align with what we approved.
Correct.
Explain that to me.
Because you created new job categories that have a new wage range to them, and there are employees that are being moved into that. That increase might mean more than a 3% increase from what they're making now.
Okay.
So to limit their increase to 3% doesn't align with the new wage category you created.
Some fall under 3%, I think you said it last. meeting.
Let's look at it. It's in there. Take a look at it.
So we have a yes, yes, no, no on the employee thing.
Can we visit that again? And, I don't know. I don't have a background. You know, to me,
Like,
you know, what happens is when you give bonuses out, then it becomes expected. And there was a specific reason why the bonuses were given, which I wouldn't party to because it was before my time, but not always. I don't know. I could say, I don't know.
That doesn't include us, I hope.
no.
No, you can't change any of that.
You can only change your future self.
Right.
Whoever takes your seat for you, if you're reelected.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
I think it's.
So any public comment? No executive session. You have a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Right.
We are adjourned.
What will be amount?
I'm adding a lot. It's brought to the categories.
It's already scholarship. Actually, and the opposite of